I'm gonna introduce our speaker for today as Dr. Maria Augusta Arruda, called friendly as Guta, Head of Research Development from University of Nottingham. So Maria Augusta Arruda is Head of Research Development at the University of Nottingham, Researchers Academic. Maria holds a BS and PhD in Pharmacology from the State University of Rio de Janeiro, where she returned as senior lecturer. Previous roles at the University of Nottingham include leading the program in drug discovery with Brazil and managing the university's strategic relationship with UK Research and Innovation, UKRI, and its councils. Before joining the University of Nottingham, Maria was head of the academic department at Farmanguinhos Fiocruz, the pharmaceutical arm of Brazilian Ministry of Health. Currently, Maria is also chair of the University of Nottingham Black and Asian Minority Staff Network. So please help me welcoming Maria Augusta Arruda.
Thank you all very much for the thank you, Natalia, for the kind introduction and invitation. I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you, bright minds, not the future, the present of our research, not only in Brazil, but in South America and wherever you want to work across the globe. So it's really, really interesting to, the whole program, the proposal of this, I would say, groundbreaking program that you enrolled, that you're enjoying, and that is now probably coming to an end. So the challenge that Natalia and Christina posed was to talk about underrepresented groups in science. What is something really, really important, but I believe that there is more than this. First, I think that I'm going to try to make a case for diversity in science, for the prosperity and sustainability of the research ecosystems, and to show you probably already think this way, that science, justice, politics, these things, that they are inherent, they are part of the human condition, therefore they can't be dissociated. So a title that makes me slightly more comfortable, and that also imposes you, all of us, and you in the audience, a challenge, is in every scientist, a Jedi. So how justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion needs to be embedded in the research practice so we can have a sustainable future. So I'm much, much older than all of you. And when I was starting my academic and research career, life in science, we didn't have the vocabulary to express the discomfort, the injustices that were replicated in academia, the injustices that were seen in all the society. I was, as I'm going to show you in a bit, I was the only Black person everywhere I studied. And there are many ways of digesting it and to take it to your life. And I'll try to show and share with you some of my reflections from this experience as well. But, people didn't talk about these things. There was always this feeling, and that's one of the things that I should confess, made me think about science. Science has been this apolitical, above everything entity that was unable to be racist, that was unable to be discriminatory, that was unable to be misogynistic, because science and scientists, they are driven by, this very untouchable set of experiences. But actually, we know today that we've got a vocabulary to explain what happens inside and outside science. So that's a relatively recent review summary from this paper on science, talking about the ecological and evolutionary consequences of systemic racism in urban environments. So you can see from this paper, and I can send all the references later. I could have done that before, but I forgot. I won't forget after. That actually seeing your practice as something that goes beyond the bench or the computer or the focus groups, if you are someone that works with qualitative research, going beyond yourself and bringing, in some cases, your own experiences to academia can lead to very transformative reflections and outcomes. So without having the contact with people that are minoritized by the ruling classes, one can't be able to have these reflections. So that's one of the many ways of showing the importance of having people of color, of having women, of having people with disabilities and other protected characteristics, members of the LGBTQIA+ community, as their true selves inside research, doing research, because the reflections, the set of experiences that they are going to share with their colleagues, the themes of studies that they are going to pursue, even if not directly related to their experiences, they will bring the diversity of thoughts, of way of thinking that their own experiences impose. So now, and you are from a generation that starts to talk a lot about equality, diversity, and inclusion, equity, diversity, and inclusion. But there is a lot of talking, not necessarily a lot of action. So we talk a lot about, and Brazil, to be fair, compared to other places in the world, is really, with all the inconsistencies and paradoxes that we live every day for being Brazilian, some very different things like positive affirmative actions and the quotas, the scientific initiation programs. These are things that the rest of the world is still to catch up. But there is much more talking about equality, diversity, and inclusion everywhere in the world, including in Brazil, including UK, than actions to address this, the problem with lack of diversity, particularly in research. So here in this diagram, there are some things that people that are trying to drive forward the EDI, the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion agenda, are faced. So the authorities are resistant. There is job insecurity, therefore you are less likely to rock the boat. One can be labeled as combative. There is absence of genuine support, tokenism. So, that's the pet Black person or the pet gay person in the room to show that the system is not racist or homophobic or misogynistic in case of women. The me, as we would say in Brazil, people that roll their eyes every time people talk about these issues related to equality, diversity, inclusion. And this author, she came with this Sana Hassam, subverting the acronym EDI, instead of being equity, diversity, inclusion, or equality, diversity, inclusion, being endless distraction and inaction. It's a very good way of keeping us not engaged with actions that are going to change the reality, to some extent, it calms down people that are fighting for these long overdue changes, and make the people that are from the more privileged groups to feel good about themselves because, oh, you know, I'm talking about TTI. So it's this paper is a call for action and not only talking about things. So when we talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion, there is something that is not in the equation, that is justice. And that's where the acronym JEDI comes from. And as we know, JEDI, for the geeks that like Star Wars in the room, are this noble order of protectors of the universe that are there to bring peace and justice to the Galactic Republic. And I like very much, I found a Black Jedi, unfortunately not a Black female Jedi, but time will tell if it's going to come back. The term Jedi is not a term that is liked by everyone. Some people don't like, and they think that it's a problematic term because it shows that it's almost like only certain very special kind of people can do work in justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. So it's a term that excludes people rather than includes. I kind of disagree. I think it's catchy. And you're going to see in other places that are bringing justice to this agenda. Instead of saying Jedi, they say DEJI, that is diversity, equity, justice, and inclusion. And when I'm talking about these things, I started already with the disclaimers, and I'm here talking to you from where I am because I cracked some codes for a number of opportunities that I had. I was meant to crack the code. So despite having, all the indicatives of quality, I had an academic career. I did BSc, PhD, as many of you, if not doing, are going to do in the future. I held posts that were of prominence, and I did everything that I was supposed to do. And obviously, I can't forget to say to talk about the L'Oreal Prize. That's something that is in the past, but is a seal of approval that follows you throughout your life. I'm someone that looks like me, where I come from the South American continent, is not supposed to be doing research. The history of my ancestors is not the history that was at any time considered that the offspring of the people that were taken by force from the African continent to South America, to Brazil, they were there not to study. They were not, the passage was not to lead more prosperous lives. It was not to have any dignity connected to our existence. So now I'm going to send a triggering alert. I'm going to, in 5 seconds, I'm going to show something that is a bit shocking, but not too shocking. It's a caricature from the 18th century, but can be triggering for some people. So if you think you're going to be triggered, close your eyes, please. Okay, I'm going to change these slides now. So that's the story. A woman like myself was not supposed to be doing research, was not supposed to have an academic life. This cartoon epitomizes what Black people that were enslaved and taken by force to the Americas. That's how they were treated. At any point there was any concern with their well-being, the dignity, the prosperity of my ancestors. And we see that being replicated up to today in Brazil. And I believe that as scientists, as thinkers, we can't dissociate ourselves from our past. And as allies, because we are thinkers and we know what is human, what is empathetic, we can't allow people that go through experiences of discrimination of any kind to do that alone. And we need to check when it comes to LGBTQIA plus rights, disability rights, neurodiversity, etc. But I had a very good life. So now everybody can open their eyes. I have a very good life. I have a very good life in Brazil. I had a very good life in UK. That's not the lives of the people that look like me in Brazil, that are 56% of the population. I always knew that. And I always knew that what I used to say privilege, actually the rights that I had access to, because they are not privileges, the right to education, to health, to food, they are not privileges, they are rights. And this right is not distributed equally across the population, and it is proportionately not given to people that look like me. So here I had access to amazing education. So since I'm 14 years old, I was inside the lab. I went to State University of Rio de Janeiro to do my degrees, etc. Worked as a technician because I did the technical high school. So I had access to things that were amazing. And here, you know, with my family, with my former supervisor, with the people, my first PhD students, I had a ball. Life has been amazing to me. Science allowed me to have many lives at once. And, you know, everything from biochemistry of the insect all the way to melanoma, I studied different models. No, and that's the beauty of science. You can always do loads of different things. And particularly when you open yourself to the experiences, that's not the experience of everybody that looks like me. And I didn't do that, on the other hand, because I'm exceptional, because I'm not. It's because I was relatively competent in taking advantage of the opportunities that were given to me. Moreover, I was able to be a mother in science. And that's something that is totally, you know, that's still a big taboo. People say that if you have a child when you're doing your research, I had my child, I was finishing my BSc, I got married and had, no, in a very medieval way, I got married and then I had a child. And this child is a big woman now. And many of the reflections that I'm sharing here with you today, they were developed seeing my daughter growing up. So as you can see, this photo is from many, many years ago, although it feels like yesterday. Being a Black woman, mother in science, tell me about being a unicorn. And it is wrong. It should not be. That's a right, not a privilege. And when people say, oh, stop with the me, as we say in Brazil, you know, if the person really wants it, they can get it. And as I said before, I'm going to bring the experience from raising a Black woman, a Black girl that became a Black woman, made me think that it's not the case. And comparing. So it's not, a lot of the reflections that I share about myself, I started to have seen my daughter growing up. So here's my daughter. She did BA in philosophy in Manchester. So here's her photo with the first Black professor in UK that became a Nobel Prize winner, Sir Arthur Lewis, that was from the University of Manchester. So when she finished her degree in philosophy, she decided to do bioscience and memorizing bioscience in Nottingham so she could be closer to me. And that she interrupted recently because she became a journalist full-time with BBC. That's my daughter. My daughter is not, her experience of life does not reflect the experience of other Black women anywhere in the world. But here in UK, I had a very good example of someone that is pretty amazing and that had a very, very hard time trying to find her space and her route into science. And I'm not saying that my daughter isn't amazing. She's amazing. And that's what every mother would say. People, they do have, it's just the discrepancy and the lack of opportunity that is not shared the same way. In the end of the day, my daughter is the daughter of an academic, someone that doesn't care if someone is a professor, just someone, just any other person. He's Tommy Akinbadi, first generation Nigerian in UK. He with her parents, the first in the family to go to university, just like many in Brazil. But then we think, oh, it's England, so it's a place where people are rich and you've got access to everything. Wrong. Just like in Brazil, the academic space excludes. And she created and founded the Black Women in Science Network when she was 21 years old, because she was at university. She got a first in her master's in neuroscience. She was one of our students in the School of Sciences where I used to work. And only after I learned that she couldn't see herself in that space. She didn't have the models, many models to follow, but she also didn't see herself being embraced by the system. Who embraced people into the system? Researchers. So all these people that are driven by these high aspirations, that think only the wonderful things that are here working for the prosperity of the humankind, are the same people that exclude people like Tommy, that oversees people with disabilities, that discriminates against women, that discriminate against members of the LGBTQIA+ community. So the solution is in people, because the problem is in the people in science. So we are here having this conversation, and hopefully when you're recruiting a PhD student, and believe me, time flies, it's a 10 years or less is the space of time between you now and you recruiting your PhD students. Hopefully these discussions that we're having today are going to resonate in your mind. It's going to still be there, and you're going to think twice how you're going to recruit and support the people that are going to work, never for you, but with you. And then we are talking all the time about justice. Another disclaimer, I don't believe that systems change based in what is fair. I think that systems, and that's the biologist in me, that was my first degree, saying that systems, they do what is going to guarantee their survival. So we individually, we are good people, but there is the wider system, the whole system. So not think about the individual now, think about the system. And I want to show you these two images. I don't know if the microphone can open. Can it open, Natalia, so I can hear the class?
Are you hearing?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yes, we
Cool.
can open the microphone for whatever.
So thank you. So you can shout, hopefully. It's not a problem there. Can you tell me what is the difference between these two images?
Does anyone want to answer? Oh, there is a...
The latitude.
Latitude. You see, that's the thing of talking to very, very intelligent and skilled people. So I do think there is a latitude difference, but why did you say that?
Just
The latitude.
Yeah, because the left one looks like a tropical forest and the other one doesn't. It's like more like a conifer or something.
Yeah. So, you know, as you, I'm loving it. So tropical and conifers. What is, can you tell me a little bit more about the conifer side of things? There is anything else that you think from your expert eye that would differentiate the one on the left and the one in the right?
Well, my eye looks at the right one and sees that it's like all the same trees and the same species, and that's what makes me think of a conifer forest. Yep.
That's fabulous, and you are right. So it is a monoculture on the right, and it is a native forest on the left. What's your name?
Sorry, it takes a while for the microphone to turn on. My name is João.
João, thank you very much for your very, very kind and spot on part here. So if you go down to the floor, that's roughly what you're going to see. On the left, we've got a native tropical forest that is very diverse, isn't it? It's thriving, it's buzzing with life, and you know, and all this diversity, you know, in a symbiotic way, helping each other, each species helping the other to thrive and keeping the resources, the water, the richness of the soil and all that. And then in the right, we've got a monoculture. And then you see this bare, impoverished soil. And as João knows much better than me, many people call these places where you've got these extensive monocultures as green deserts. You've got loads of trees there, definitely, but these trees, they are impoverishing rather than enriching this part of the ecosystem. So many people would think that, you know, when you go and you devastate the biodiversity of a place, you just need to put more trees there and things are going to be okay when they are not. And I think that it's a very good analogy with the state of science, and you being the generation that are bringing the diversity, not only of diversity when it comes to the features being black, white, mixed race, native, but the diversity of thought. And it brings us to how racism and misogyny not only affects the people that do science, but they affect science and its outputs. So just a quick reflection on the research, academic research versus the world demographic. So I keep trying to change this slide by a person called Caroline Criado Paris. She wrote this book called The Invisible Woman. making the case that we live in a world designed by men for men. And here, a very quick anecdote. When, as I told you before, my BSc was in biological sciences and focused on pharmacology. So here they don't have this, so it's easy to say that I've got a BSc in pharmacology. And the first day in the lab, that I was a technician in the lab as well, my supervisor said, oh, we only do work with male rats. And I said, but why? Oh no, women are too complicated. You know, the hormones, we worked with inflammation, so the hormones, they mess the results. So we are just going to, we discard, we only use the female rats to breed, and we do the experiments only with male rats. So if you see, if you take papers as, you know, as late as the early 2010, you can see that Springer male rats, Winston male rats, it was the norm for everyone in the world to only use male rats. And when it comes to people, the trend continues. And when she says that it's a world designed by men for men, I've got a criticism to her, what she says. It's not only every kind of man, it's a very specific one. It's the Caucasian, cis, heterosexual man of European, North American descent. That's a very, very narrow kind of man. It's not the man that is 50% of the population that would be already really bad. It is a very specific kind of man. So these specific kinds of men that designs everything and makes everything for themselves is less than 9% of the world population. So there's something quite wrong in this. And I do hope that you agree. I usually, when it's live, I want people to say like this with the head, and maybe you're not, maybe you're disagreeing with me, and it's absolutely fine. But I'll continue. So now we see this frenzy of people talking about the cure for malaria. No, they every week they say that there is another vaccine for malaria. I don't know if you read, it's a bit of a quiz show now. What was the country that in Europe that had transmission inland of dengue? Have you heard of it? So a few weeks ago, an European country identified for the first time the transmission of dengue fever in their territory. Do you know where it happened? Natalia, help me. If people don't know, I say.
They are saying no.
Okay, so in France, they had the first case of transmission inland of malaria. Okay, not malaria, sorry, of dengue fever. France this year experienced for the first time consecutive days of temperatures above 40 Celsius degrees, reaching 45 to 47 Celsius degrees in some places. Practically Rio de Janeiro, where I'm from. But so we are going to see, because of global warming and all that, surprisingly, solutions for neglected diseases, tropical diseases, they are going to emerge because the world as a whole is becoming tropical. But let's put it aside. Malaria today, up to today, it kills Black babies. That's who malaria kills. Malaria kills Black babies in sub-Saharan Africa. That's the main target. And obviously there are Native American children that die of malaria as well in the Amazonian region. But in numbers, that's a black baby problem. And malaria is still there, is still thriving. And we've got Viagra, which is an amazing solution for erectile dysfunction. We can say that it's serendipity, that is, oh, you know, that's how science works. And but we start to see that there is a pattern that repeats itself over and over again. So the treatment for malaria that we've got up to this day is artemisinin, that was developed by an East Asian woman. And what we've got up to these days is modifications, is incremental innovation on something that is artemisonate, I think, or artesunate, whatever. From this old treatment that you've been tweaking a little bit to make it a little bit more effective. That's what we've got for malaria for the last, I don't know how many decades. And overnight, we had this amazing solution for erectile dysfunction. That is a well-being situation, but you know, it's a middle-aged man problem. So we see that, you know, even when it comes to drug discovery, something that is, you know, that we think that is to save lives. You know, the amount of money that is developed, for example, for drugs that are going to treat lifestyle-induced obesity. And, you know, here, hands up, I am a lifestyle obese person. But the amount, because the industry knows and the researchers know that that's where the money will come from. The money won't come from keeping baby children in Africa alive, Black babies alive in Africa. So these things say, oh no, we never thought about it. In the end of there is a chain of events that will take to this very bleak kind of decision. So when we think about, you know, what is my minority and majority, we need to think that the science we do, and the science doesn't need to be applied. You know, I'm a big believer in the power of basic science. That is, without basic science, we wouldn't be in. We would be, you know, glorified Neanderthals. We wouldn't be humans, and that able to create proper innovation. But we need to think as researchers, as scientists, as educators, that we need to think of the humanity in now its glorious diversity in a holistic way. And our decisions, the way we teach, the research we do, should at least reflect on the impact. You need to be responsible. So coming back to STEM itself, that's another science paper, now Science Advances paper, about the intersectional privilege of white, able-bodied, heterosexual men in STEM. And that's amazing because we are, you know, those things that we always felt, they are now quantified and peer-reviewed and published. So these papers show with an end of over 25,000 individuals, tries to understand where is it, if the difference between, you know, the prototypical scientist, white, male, heterosexual, and able-bodied, you know, if you Google until a few years ago, scientists, that's what would come up. If the difference between them and everyone else really exists, and the reasons why these differences exist. So just to make our lives easier, so she created, Erin Sack, she created this arrangement of 31 or 32 different components. So the person is heterosexual white man, heterosexual white women, LGBTQ, Asian man. So just to express here, so we've got clustered here in the beginning, heterosexual men and heterosexual women without disabilities. That's how we've got here in the left-hand side of the slide. Then followed by heterosexual Black men without disabilities. And if you go all the way to the right, you've got heterosexual Black women without disability, like myself, that is only followed by other people of color that are members of the LGBT community and or disabled. So that's like the extension of lack of privilege. So it's all there, all verified, and then it's a multi-parameter thing that goes all the way from acceptance of papers, promotion, warnings because of behavior. It's a very comprehensive matrix to study the privilege or lack of privilege compared to WHAM, that is white, able-bodied heterosexual men. And then they try to understand why. And if, like me, you love a graph, now that's time to have fun. So you've got here things that usually connected to performing well in life. So family responsibilities, how much work you put on, the characteristics of the job, the background characteristics, you know, what was your family, if your family was supportive or not, if they had, you know, they had a good socioeconomic status, and variation in human capital. That is what we discussed before. You know, you are used to work around people that are high flyers, that are academically prosperous, etc. And then she did this, you know, these things against social inclusion, harassment, professional respect, salary, career opportunities, and the persistence in wanting to stay in academia. So what she could see, and you are going to be able to study this paper for reference, not that it's going to be demanded from you. Particularly the first three things, social inclusion, harassment, and professional respect, that are concerns and complaints of people that are not WAM in academia. Over 80% of the experience that people that are not WAM go through can't be explained by absolutely anything other than discrimination. And she's very careful, potentially discrimination. She's just saying that it's something, all the parameters that we believe are important for people to feel included, for them not to be harassed, to be respected professionally. Over 80% of the discrepancy can't be explained by anything other than discrimination. On the other side of things is the fact that, and that's another very cool paper that was published in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. I'm sure that many of you know this journal, just like Science, very well regarded by the scientific community. In 2020, 2010, 2019, 2020, they published this paper, The Diversity Innovation Paradox in Science. And basically what they said, and I'm not going to take too much of your time here, is they took nearly all PhD recipients in the United States across 3 decades. They found that Black people of color and women innovate in a much higher rate than their other counterparts. However, their innovation is usually discarded and does not translate into encouragement to stay in academia or career progression. Look how mad the whole thing is. It's not only that the system is not great with the individuals, but they are losing because of historical discrimination, because of the aftermath of paternalistic, colonial, imperialistic approaches to society and to science. We are literally throwing innovation that could be life-saving in the bin because of discrimination. So it is with you, the new generation, to really push forward how we can have not only an anti-racism, but an anti-misogynistic, an anti-colonial, an outlook to science that leads to the emancipation of the communities. So we need to cultivate this diversity as an ethos. Nobody asks if the research we do is ethical nowadays, do they? It's just second nature. You know, if I'm going to do a research that involves animals or that involves human subjects, I need to have an ethical protocol. If I'm going to do a survey, I need to have an ethical protocol. I need to make sure that I'm doing that in a way that is humane, that is responsible, that's not creating any harm, or not, or at least that I've got means of mitigating and minimizing the harm that the research that is important is going to do. I do hope that we reach the point that being diverse becomes second nature for us scientists. And if we want to see that across the communities, across the society, it needs to start with us. Liking it or not, we are the pacemakers of society. And that's a huge responsibility. We need a blueprint of diversity in high performance research settings. We need to understand that diversity does not mean bringing down the quality of the research we do. So when we talk about equality and inclusion, it's great, but what Maria Augusta Guta, for all of you, what Guta wants is not equality and inclusion. Guta wants abolition and liberation. That's what the world needs. That's what science needs. That's what is going to make our research more relevant and for the many, not the few. And for that, we need to rethink excellence. Excellence is connected to exclusivity. Excelling is putting one aside of the rest, what is a slightly problematic term, but that's the one we've got. We can't rewrite everything. But I think that when we think about research spaces, we can think about having empathy as a strategic tool. You know, do things like the Serrapilheira Institute is doing with this program of yours and many others, that is unleash creativity, democratize the opportunities, being responsible and accountable, and lead to the emancipation. None of these things, I wish I had come up with these things, I didn't. So there are many people that studied a lot and that had, you know, that are inspired by heavens or whatever, people like Maria Montessori, people like Paulo Freire, educators that could, and scientists that could see beyond, you know, the pettiness of day-to-day life. And only this way we are going to have real extraordinary things happening, because normal never changed the world. I'm very critical about the merchandise of the University of Nottingham, but that's the one that I like very much. Normal never changed the world. And normal does not mean that you need to create things from scratch. We can bring things from other contexts and apply in our context and see if we can make wonderful things. So that's something that I've done here in Nottingham with the Excel in Science program. And here is a caricature of Maria with my friend and co-conspirator Sarah Slay. We created this program at the University of Nottingham that is here between you and me, a rip-off of our scientific initiation program, but something that they don't do here in UK. And I say that to everyone, that it is a rip-off of what Brazil has been doing for ages. That is basically give opportunity for people and, you know, in an agnostic way, give the opportunity to experience research and see what research can be like, and then be where you are right now, learning and experiencing the power of good science. And to do that, because people, they need to eat, they need to take bus, they need to, just like in Brazil, here we see real poverty across the student population, people that do not eat every day because it's so expensive to be in university. And they sell that as the dream and as something that everybody needs to do, what is right, but everyone that does not come from an affluent background need to work during the day or during the night, you know, in supermarkets. So what we did, we give them above the minimum wage, we call it the living wage, for them to spend 10 hours a week inside the lab as research assistants. Maria didn't create anything. It's the scientific initiation. I just took it to another context and kind of shove down people's throats, say, just give me a chance to show you that it works, and it is working. And when doing that, because our resources are limited, we created a matrix of inequality. So we prioritize people from underserved, minoritized backgrounds. And my belief that it works is in the experience of these three wonderful women that were my students. They belong to the first cohort, the first year that we had affirmative actions in Brazil. And they all came through affirmative action. And the horrible things, and then you can imagine I was the only lecturer, the only academic, Black academic in my department. I was very young. I was my 30s, early 30s, 29, 30. And listening to my colleagues saying, "Oh, it's going to be awful. The quality of the study will go downhill because these people, they get to the university without knowing anything, and they will need to we'll need to compensate everything that they didn't study during the segundo grau, whatever it is now. I don't know, is it segundo grau now? The A levels, what they call the high school. And here they are, amazing doctors, amazing scientists and academics. And Ana Paula, she's associate professor at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro now. Natália Felizardo, she heads a unit at Rio de Janeiro's largest blood center. Gilane Silva, she's always on TV in Rio because she works after doing her PhD in biochemistry. They all did biochemistry and physiology. Gilane, she specializes in science for primary and secondary school kids. And she's like a bit of a celebrity in doing that. That's what bringing justice to academia, to research results. So obviously, when they went to do their master's and their PhD, there was no affirmative action back then for this. But just that opportunity, and they were so good, and they did so well. And like them, everyone else that came in that cohort. Obviously, there are people that are not going to thrive at university. It doesn't matter where they are and where they come from, but the vast majority, they did amazingly, and they really honored the opportunity of being in that space that was not designed for them. And when we do these things, we need our co-conspirators. So in my personal journey, there are all the co-conspirators here at the University of Nottingham, but also the National Geographic that partners with us in these programs. We've got the Ignite Futures, that is a local charity from Nottingham, and we work with them in the Festival of Science and Curiosity, bringing the community to research. And we've got the Blast Fest, that is a grassroots movement to increase the participation of Black people in science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. They want everything because we deserve everything. And the Black Women in Science Network, that I'm very, very proud to be one of their advisor. Everybody else is very young, and I'm the ancient one that they come to me when they've got questions. And last but never least, the Serrapilheira Institute, that has been a real joy to work with all of you and to rethink and to reinvent and reimagine what research can be like, what the future of research is keeping for humanity. And all this effort of the team, and Natalia, Cristina, Hugo, and everyone else that is in this venture is for you. It's for you to be able to do good research, responsible research, engaged research, socially aware research. I'm going to finalize here. That's the world that my generation, the generations before, are living for you. There was so much hope, isn't it? But we screw things up a little bit. It's a war, it's global warming, it's violence against minorities, even the minority that is majority, that is, the women across the world. No, the nuclear holocaust never too far away from us. Plastic in the ocean, droughts, fire, all consequence of climate change. And if it were not enough, we've got COVID. All these challenges, they are all transboundary. They, from an area point of view. So all these, none of these challenges can be addressed by studies in only one area of knowledge. We need, all hands on deck to mitigate, to solve them. And they know no borders. And that's another pet thing that I like very much talk, that is diplomacy in science, but I'm not going to talk about it today. But there is this book by Toni Morrison that is a Nobel laureate called Beloved. And there is this passage that is the people, these marooned people that fled slavery in US, and they go to these places in the middle of the swamps, or the forests. And I think that's a very strong passage that really drives me. So this priestess, this old wise woman, she gathered people around her, and she says, she told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine. That if they could not see it, they would not have it. I totally understand that talking about the things that I'm talking to you today are things that we think, oh gosh, it's such a huge amount of work. Now, how can I fight 500 years of colonial ruling across the world, and all the thousands of years of injustice against women and people just being horrible to each other? But it starts with us. And as scientists, we've got the power to take it to even more people. So when you're doing your experiments, analyzing your data, think that you are part of much more than ourselves. And today is a day that I am particularly very, very happy. Not everybody's going to be very, very happy today, but in my own experience, I say that the hope defeated the terror, and we will defeat the terror of inequality across the globe. And on that note, Ubuntu, I am because you are. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. And I do hope that we can have a chat for a bit now.
So does anyone have any question? Any comments? Passing microphone. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentation. It was great. And I want to ask you if you ever feel that you not belong to a place, even that you have studied, you have worked with, if you feel like you're not able to do this because people don't believe you. And how did you deal with this? Yes.
Thank you very much. And I can tell you, all the time. And I think that the good thing about my own experience is that I never belonged. I never felt I truly belonged. And there are two ways of honoring not belonging. One way is to hide yourself under a rock and forget everything. The other way is, I think that is the act of defiance of being there, of showing up. Because when you show up, but particularly when we are from any minoritized group, it can be any minoritized group, you show that as yourself, but it's actually, you're bringing the message of so many people and the hope of so many people with you. And I think that's the whole thing of empathy. Sometimes, these experiences that are so painful, they can only be conquered when you go beyond yourself. If I think of me, Maria, I am extremely boring. Really, who is Maria? I am a blink of an eye in the universe. But having the chance to be here in this room, this virtual room with all of you, and not saying that I'm saying the right things, but things that will make you feel empowered or uncomfortable, that will trigger conversation that you're going to take somewhere else, that you're going to take to your students, that you're going to take to your parents, your friends, your boyfriends and girlfriends. And then that's when it starts to mean something, I believe. So even the experiments that we do, it's another experiment, another paper that's going to be there with another 1 billion of paper, but everything that went into it, the people you supported, the people that you taught, the things that the experience taught yourself. So I don't know if I'm being clear in the answer of the question, but I think that not belonging is an exercise of going beyond oneself. And I think that's the only way of making sense of not belonging.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's one more question. Hi. Thank you, Maria, for the lecture. I have a question about, you can talk about your experience or something that you lived during your career, becoming a mother as a scientist. I want to ask how you think your career or the careers of your students, your women students, the career changed after becoming a mother, and how because you said that you became a mother in the end of your master, right?
Yeah, BSc. Yeah.
Yes.
I took a bit longer, but yeah.
Okay, and how do you continue studying with a child? I don't know if the father was acting or not, but sometimes it's very hard for a woman to continue pursuing a career and taking care of a child and everything, because being a scientist is sometimes exhausting and being a mother is always exhausting. So I want to ask about if you feel comfortable about your experience or
Yes.
the experience of others.
Very happy to share with you and my experience. And I need to make it clear, I'm not superwoman. I'm a slacker. I try the route of less resistance a lot of time, but I'm also quite determined and stillborn. So it's not that I'm amazing. I'm not. I always think that I could have been a better mother to my daughter. But I stand by the decisions I made, and I think that it ended up okay. And so the first thing that children want and need is a happy parent. The first thing. And to give up, if science, if research is your dream, and you give it up, you're going to be less happy. And your children are going to be less happy because of this as well. The good thing of my time, there was no Facebook, not even Orkut in my time to exchange notes. And I didn't have anyone of my circle that had children as well. So the things I've done, there was no comparison. Today, I think that I don't know if I would be able to make it, because there are so many so many groups to exchange information. That is good from one side, but can set the expectations quite high because people, social media is all about being perfect. Nobody put the photos, or very few people put the photos in that day that they are leaving the house and the child vomits on them and they break their heels and break the computer and the the electricity guys come over because you forgot to pay to pay the bill, and all these together. Nobody talks about this. It's all the perfection, the filters, and oh look, the children is perfect, everything is perfect. And I had one big, and that's a privilege, not a right, of having my former husband, because the husband didn't survive the PhD, bless him. But the father of my daughter, he was in the military, so he was not incredibly supportive. But I have a family, and sometimes you just need to, to swallow your pride and accept the help. So that's a privilege I had. I know that not everybody can do that. But going to conferences, I was the only person with a child going to, to the FASB. Still exists, the FASB, the Federal, the Biologia Experimental Biology conference. So I would go, and for the people in the lab, it was a laugh because she was quite cute, and my grandma would go and stay in the hotel room with me while I was giving the talk. So it was all a bit hectic, but I think I had no expectations of what perfect parenthood would be like. And the people that I supervise today, the people that I line manager that work in my team, with my PhD students, one of them had a child. We do what we can, and it comes with the defiance that I told in the previous answer. You just going with your child under your arm, it is something. And I remember so many people, much older than me, saying, "Oh, thank you so much for showing me that it's possible." Imagine, I was doing nothing. I was just living my life. So I think that, it's the expectations. My supervisor was disgusted when she's a very good friend of mine today, and she's going to say she never said that. She was disgusted when I said I was pregnant. It was not easy in any shape or form, but you just soldier on. And I'm sure that if it's a decision that is good for you, something that you want to do, I should say as well, nobody misses what they never had. And I'm not one of these people that say that everybody needs to have a child, because I think it's something so personal. But if that's something that you want, or that happens and you want to go with it, don't be afraid, because things, they work out. And nowadays, I'm sure that Serrapilheira does it, but all the funding agencies, they've got schemes for mothers, something that I didn't have in my time. I came back to work when my daughter was 3 months. So it's another time, isn't it? It's almost like, being US, but because for the research and everything, I just couldn't stop. And the drive that I had after my daughter was born was really impressive, because your time is becomes so much more precious that you don't have time to faff around. You need to be focused and make the most of it. But today is much more difficult. There was no Twitter. I spent too much time on Twitter, for example. I don't know how it would be if I was raising a child and trying to be a researcher.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Hi, Gutta. Thank you for
Hello.
the talk. I am Kauye. So
Oh, I'd love to meet you.
I hope I do not stutter very much, because I've been left quite emotional after your talk, but perhaps ever since the beginning. Well, it's been lovely to see the glimpses of your life that you showed us in the beginning of the presentation, and also all that you talked through it. But well, the question I came up with is regarding the advertisement of the Nottingham University. You mentioned you're generally not very in tune with their advertisement, but that you liked particularly that one. Well, it got me wondering. It said normal never changed the world. In a sense, I can see and fully agree with it in one of the interpretations we may have of it, which is people who did not fit the norm were always there, changing things, and fitting the norm was never what really a sure change. It is the very thing that keeps things the way they are. But in a sense, we are all average in some sense, and we are all normal. And even those people who went there and changed the world in any sense they have done, were normal people. So if you could talk a bit about that, because you was also speaking about rethinking the concept of excellency and how that presupposes somehow setting apart people in a sense.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'm very touched that it touched you, because, it shows that the connection, isn't it? And yeah, these are one of the many paradoxes, isn't it? I read something recently talking about the critical yeast, the yeast that makes beer and bread, the yeast, the organism, and saying that every time across the history of humanity, normal people, they came together, and there's a very small number of people compared to the huge numbers of humanity. They came together, and this person that wrote this essay, they called them the critical yeast, people that by themselves, they had nothing exceptional, nothing more than normal. They were normal, but then when they got together, something happened in that small group of people were able to send a message, like a beacon that congregated other people around that idea. And I thought it was a very interesting thing in connecting what you're saying, that we are all different and average at the same time. I think that as humanity, that's how it works. Obviously, there are these, it's almost like myths, human contemporary myths of, oh, this person is so incredibly intelligent. There are many people as intelligent or even more intelligent than them, but there was that environment, the luck and other things that made it possible for that person to really show, to do something extraordinary. So I don't think, I don't believe in the whole thing of the lone genius, the lonely wolf that goes and think wonderful things and do wonderful things by themselves. I think of, open, normal people that together they make the most of each other. And to some extent, it has to do with something that people talk a lot about now, but I think that sometimes not with the intentionality that it deserves. That is team science. Now, the whole thing that it requires a team to do good science. and nobody should feel that they are special because it's all shared, and it's a much more communal way to see research, much more collaborative, much less egotistical. So yeah, I think that there is this tension. I still think, we can make the system better, and we can make some, step changes, but the university as it stands and the research as it stands, it's what we've got now. And unfortunately, it is a method of exclusion as well, isn't it? You all need to go through a selective process to get a place at university, then to get a place in the master's, and then to go to PhD, to do this course. We are always putting ourselves above, isn't it? There's always a bar to be surpassed. And we still don't have a solution for that. But at least if we can make the things as equitable as possible, more people, not necessarily more people, but not only one kind of person is going to be able to step out, to achieve and to have access to a career in science, to opportunities in science. But yeah, you gave me a lot to think about. Thank you so much. It's not an answer, it's a reflection. And I do hope that we can continue discussing this. All I can say is that we are all normal, but I think the extraordinary comes when we get together.
I wouldn't be able to provide any answer myself, so.
But thank you. It's really good to be challenged like this, challenged with love. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the talk. I think we have a question from the chat. I think Natalia is going to.
Oh, yeah, Cristiana.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Thank you, Guta, for the talk. It was really, really nice. And as you were talking and answering Kawa's question, it got me thinking about this whole Black excellence idea that we have currently on debate, and the idea that you have always to be super excellent to people actually take their time to look what you were doing, paying attention to you. And so was kind of thinking about this, but also my question is about one of the things that you said about the sense of belonging and reminding yourself that you are representing a whole group. And I was wondering how it is for you to kind of carry this with you through your journey, that you are representing like this whole group of people, and how do you kind of maintain your sense of individual? Because I think these things kind of mix, because you don't know if people are not like they are treating you different, or they are very critical of your work, because actually as an individual you have a lot to improve. Or how can you kind of differentiate this bias that, because we know that the way that people are going to evaluate you carry the idea that there is this whole appearance that a scientist needs to be, and then if you are not this way, you like, okay, you are not them, what you're doing is not that much important.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And when I was where, and how can I put this? My mom, she told me something, because she was really during a part of her life, she was really into the Black movement in Brazil and things like that. And then she realized that she needed to raise two girls and get them through university, through studying and all that. And she needed to make some priorities. And she used to tell us, your activism is being there. You don't need to do anything special. You just need to be there. You just need to be in these spaces that were not designed for you. I did that, and sometimes it was difficult, and I had some horrible experiences that one day I'll be able to share when I was in Brazil. Really, really dreadful. But you just persevere out of stubbornness. That's a very egotistical thing. You're not thinking about anyone else. And other times you're there because there is something that is beyond yourself. And I think that is really true. However, it should not be, it should come as a motivator, not with the weight of the expectation that you need to respond for, all the women or all in my case, all the Black women or all the LGBTQIA plus community or all the disabled community. You're there as yourself. And when I think about there is something beyond us, is not to be a weight to carry on your shoulders, but actually to be carried by that sense of I can't see anyone like me around, but I'm carried by all these people that can't be here. And I think that's, it's something difficult in our mind. And we know that we are, any underrepresented group, any minoritized group is under intense scrutiny. And it's not an experience that, many years ago. I still have my own conflicts now from the height of my 47 years on Earth. And I've got to here, when you reach a point in your career, people say that you need to have an executive coach. So the executive coach, they all look the same. They are all middle-aged white men that were CEOs in big companies, directors of blah, blah, blah. And then they retire early because obviously they make a lot of money, but they are so addicted to make money that they become coaches. And my coach is like this, but he's a very cool guy. I like him because it's just like giving me an insight in a life that is not mine. So it's good to check how the other half thinks. And I had a situation and I shared with him and he told me, right, I get it. I think you've got a point, but you're never going to know if it really happened. So for this particular situation, I think that it's not helpful for you to consider if there is racism and misogyny playing a role in the way you're treated or not. And I think that's the balance that sometimes we need to have. And it's not to negate that things happened, but there are things that are so subtle. I'm here, Keith, telling you about a failure of the system, okay? It is so subtle. You want to hear a real story. That's not the worst, but that's a funny one. So I worked as a lecturer at WERSI, and there was this, I need to, concurso that we've got in Brazil to get the proper position. And they never opened the thing while I was at WERSI. I went to Fiocruz and continued professor at WERSI. And they never opened. And they opened the concurso, the selection process, the day that I boarded to come to UK. That's when they opened the selection process for the position that I was supposed to apply. It was very, very clear they didn't want me in that department. And they did everything they could for me not to apply for that post. Was it racism? Was it misogyny? Maybe it was. I will never be able to know. So, and what you need, I think that what we need to do is to be a pain and to be strong and to be there and to confront and understand and have your, your allies around you, but also have the feeling, consider that sometimes you'll never be able to pinpoint. And that's why I think that when we talk about the individual experiences, that's when things get tricky and can get us into a wormhole, and that we're never going to be able to prove exactly what is happening when it's individual. But when we've got the power of numbers, when we see that it's not an experience of one person, it's experience of many different people, so you can confront the system. So the Wellcome Trust is one of the main funders, is like the Serrapilheira on steroids in UK. In steroids because they support research for a long time. People confronted them over and over again until we reached the point that they needed to launch an inquiry, and they released a statement saying that we are sorry, we are institutional racist. And these are the things that I believe in. I don't believe in one person that did something bad against me coming to say, I'm sorry I did that to you, because they can do that to me and say sorry to me because I'm more senior now or for anything else, but they will continue with their behaviors. I think that's what I'm really into is in systems change. Because when the system change, the person that does something of that kind, the system is going to get rid of them. Something that if it's a personal situation is more difficult to address. So I don't want to make you disheartened. It's just that sometimes we just need to be a pain, to be there, and to not to curb down, and also, there are always ways. Nobody needs to be submitted to a situation where they are ill-treated, that they are not respected. When things get to this point, obviously you need to get out. But there are the microaggressions, isn't it, that people talk a lot, the microaggressions, the little things that bubble under the surface that is difficult to put your finger on. And if it's too toxic, get out. That's what I tell all my students here. So I'm responsible for 3,000 students here in Nottingham. And I tell them, if it's toxic, come over, talk to me, and we will get you out of that relationship. And when it's like this, I don't even want to hear from the supervisor. It's not good for the student. You're out, bad matching. Let's move on. But I do hope that you don't go through any of these situations. And, for you, Chris, and anyone here in confidence, if you want to chat, I'll be very happy to have, because as I said, it's the power of the community. It's good to share. It's good to share and to sometimes listen to our own voice. We can find solutions.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you, Chris.
So I think we're coming to an end, but does anyone want to make a final question or comment? No. So good, on behalf, I don't know if you're seeing me, but on behalf of the Serrapilheira executive team, Chris, Hugo, and ICTP-SAIFR, I would like to extend our thanks for you. It was a very enlightening session. You brought to the table many topics that we don't discuss too much in academia. I think students have enjoyed this session, and we have several topics and issues to reflect on. Thank you so much. We congratulate.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And don't be strangers. You've got my email. I'm going to share a PDF because it's too big. I'm going to share the PDF of the presentation. There are the links to the papers I mentioned, and I'm also going to send a paper from Nature that was published last week, not mine, but they had a whole editorial about racism in science. Published 2 weeks ago.
I will, once you send me, I'll send to Dan, and I'll
Yes,
give you your
please.
contact as well.
But amazing spending the afternoon or evening, early evening for me with you.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations to you all for making the cut and enjoying this amazing program.
Thank you. They're saying all. Thank heart to you. Thank you. Good.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.